start streaming. And we post a link and we give students the time to trickle in.
Can you tell you how many viewers you have?
I usually get about 10.
Nice.
Okay. Alright, now they wait to come in. Now I gotta open it up on the other screen. If the other screen will be amenable to that. So that I can monitor the chat. I should probably tell them that I'm talking to you. It's not because the schizophrenia is finally set in.
Just maybe.
I know two of my regulars are not coming tonight. Oh, we have 3 viewers already. So we'll give it a bit of
So popular.
time. I'm going to tell them training a TA. So you announce it to the group me, and that's how I summon them. And when on the group me, then they don't count as they just sort of for the marginally tech-savvy people. And then you say something really peppy like, "Hey everyone, good to see you. If you can hear my voice, please say something in the chat so that I can fix my microphone if it's broken." And they're like, "Wow, this guy's so positive," and they get super stoked on that. And I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm so excited to learn about brain anatomy." Because of course it comes off as very sincere. And then there's stream delay, so you're like a few seconds behind with 7 people now. There's stream delay, so it's a few seconds behind. So what I say and then how long it takes them to respond is how long they respond, and it's also how long it takes the stream to convey what I'm saying. So if you can hear me, please indicate. Please indicate so. Because you don't know if the software isn't working or the hardware isn't working. And good. And then of course one of my frequents, they always tell me that they can hear me, and the other 90% of people just say nothing and just kind of lurk, because this is the UT Dallas neuroscience department after all, and I can't expect everyone to be social butterflies or like talk or anything. Right. Well, we have 8 people, and we already lost 1. So far, so good. We're going to get it started. Better close that. That shouldn't be there. And we'll open this. Good. All right. So we're going to do some cortex tonight, which is basically all we did this week. I picked a couple of topics that are interesting to me, and we'll go through them. Hopefully it'll help. As always, please ask questions as they come up, and I'm more than happy to stop and explain the concepts. And at the end, if there's anything I didn't go over that you want me to cover, or any questions about the material, I'll stay back a few minutes and talk about that. All right. So we're going to start with a question here. And this is a very easy question if you know why the brain is shaped the way it is. So we'll start with that. So we have this question up on the board. So have a thought about this. And what you want to realize is that there are disturbances in the cell division processes that are involved in pre-neurogenic division, meaning before the cells even differentiate into neurons, we are underproducing them. So what is the anatomic result of that going to be? That's what this question is asking you to identify. So go ahead and put your answer in the chat. I'll be more tolerant of stream delay today, because I've been informed that it is quite potent. So one of the principles when you're giving an online lecture, you can sit over there if you like. I think that chair If you scoot it a bit that way, then you can't be seen. And yeah. And so you don't want to have any downtime. So you're waiting for them to respond. And I'm just sitting there like talking to myself, wondering if anyone's going to respond, just so that there's no dead air. It's one of the things they teach you. It's always be talking. So my solution is to literally teach someone how I'm teaching as I'm teaching. So that one teaching doesn't require enough. So do we have no responses? Let's see. If you look back at your notes, hopefully you'll remember that the brain folds, corrugates, it forms gyri and sulci in order to accommodate the mass of brain tissue. All right. So we have one half-hearted answer. One half-hearted answer. I'm waiting for 11 more. Right. So we're so I actually coded it wrong. So we'll talk about B. It would definitely be B. Because if you think about it, if you think about this as the brain, this is the neural tissue, and I have this much space to fit it into. Well, if I cram it all into that space, then this would be the skull. And if I open up the skull, we see gyri and sulci. And that's exactly how the brain works. So if we produce less brain tissue, so if instead of this I have something that is more diminished and I stick it in here, well, we're going to get less folding conceptually. So B is definitely going to be the case. Now, if I were good at my job, then I would have had D indicate B and C. Because if we are folding less because there's less brain tissue, there's less space that needs to be taken up, then the circumference of the brain from the frontal to the occipital lobe is going to also be diminished. And indeed, the condition I'm referring to is called microcephaly, in which case the brain is less of it develops because of these disturbances in the mitotic processes. You'll learn about it in developmental neuroscience. And you get less corrugation, so the gyri are a bit more broad, and the circumference of the brain from front to back is diminished. So good job contending with my inability to code a simple question. The answer would be B and C. B and C. I don't know if my TA is here, so B and C. I'll put it in the chat myself. Right. Oh.
Awkward.
We're off to a great start, everybody. A great start. Okay. Another question. Let's make sure. Okay, that's all of the questions. Yeah, okay. So go ahead and read this one. This one is a little bit simpler, and come up with an answer. You're killing it tonight.
Make these PowerPoints yourself.
I did. So I go into the lecture slides, and I use the material left in there to create relevant questions and sort of try to put them in the way that they'll be put on their exam. I focus less on the practical. That's the other TA's problem. And I do this type of thing. So herniation, we're having something that's being very much displaced in the brain. We compress, as a result of this herniation, the PCA, the posterior cerebral artery, and the brainstem. And of course, as we diminish blood supply, it's pro-inflammatory. And so it sort of feeds back. More swelling, more swelling, more swelling, and you die. And there is one structure that you're going to need to know for this class, and especially if you take medical neuroscience, which is implicated in death by herniation. Which one of these is it? Come on, guys, answer, answer, answer. You will have to answer these questions on exam time, so just put something out there. Remember the gyrus? Yep, very good, Nishi. Megan, nice. A lot of stream delay, I guess. Amen, nice job. Yeah, the answer is D. And that's uncal herniation. That's something that you'll hear mentioned quite frequently, especially in your clinical classes. And you want to know what that is. Okay? So if we herniate the uncus, guy is going to die. All right. So now we have a couple of questions that don't have answer choices. And very good job on the first two. And so this you just look it up, use your notes, use Google, use whatever you want to do, and put the answer in the chat, and let's see if we can get it. So there is one structure that we mentioned as implicated in lucid dreaming, and I want the name of that structure in the chat. So the stream delay, they might have just heard me ask the question. I'm sort of trying to figure that out. I don't think that's the case. Very good. And Sheena takes the cake there. It is the subcolossal gyrus. Now, this is a good question for your written exam, but on the practicum, you're going to have what is this, right? And the what is this circle is going to be right below the genu of the corpus callosum. So that front anterior most part, that rostral most part of the corpus callosum, below that, you're going to have SCG, subcolossal gyrus, on your notes. On the practicum, you won't have that, and you'll need to be able to name it. So it looks like Sheena is going to definitely be able to name that. So awesome job there. We'll go ahead and put the next question on. I want the name of the narrowest part of the corpus callosum. And this question is not in your notes. This is a question you asked in class. So if you weren't in class, have a go at this. And if you even just look at a picture of it, it's quite straightforward. Your answer choices would be the genu, which is in the front, and then you have the body, you have the splenium in the back. Which of those is the narrowest segment? Do you know?
I'm trying to remember the name. I read this in A&P.
It is the body. So the fornix is actually not a structure of the corpus callosum, it's a structure of the Pepez circuit, which we covered last week. But it is at least an axon bundle. It is the body. Okay, so that main part, that middle bit, is the skinniest part. And if you remember looking at the corpus callosum, you have sort of a thick part in the front, and then it becomes a little bit narrower in the middle, and as it goes back. So yeah, that would be the body. So 1 is SCG, 2 is the body. Next question. And I think, so there are 2 answers here, just separate them with a comma. So the body is in the middle, I'll tell you that. The body is definitely in the middle. So it's not the body. I gave it away a few minutes ago. Hopefully this is the sound of everyone going through their notes and figuring out what the answer to this question is. Okay, so you would have a picture of the corpus callosum in your notes. You could consult several pictures, in fact. Okay. Very good. Very good. Now you guys all sort of got it at the same time. So the front is the genu, and you'll remember that it is shaped like a knee, right? You go genu, then body in the middle, and then the splenium in the back. Yeah, and you have the retrogenu in the bottom and in the front. But if you got genu for the front, then you're good enough. So very good job on that one. The next one will be this, which is technically from not this week, but the week before that when we did vision. I'm looking for a triangular bit of cortex in the occipital lobe involved in the processing of triangles. Ah, good. My TA is here. Wonderful. Wonderful, wonderful. So let's see the answer to number 4. Yep, it is the cuneus. It is the cuneus, yes. Or however that is pronounced, which is Of course, Portuguese for triangle, something like that. Not important. 5. Now this question is phrased in a bit of an interesting way, which is important because, as you know, Dr. Miller is a poet, and so we have to be able to discern the, we have to be able to understand the test questions. So what am I referring to here with number 5? Bifurcate means split, so if I have these two fingers and I want to bifurcate them, this is to bifurcate them, right? And whatever it is, it does not descend into the midline. We mentioned during lecture one structure that does not descend into the midline. So, which structure would that be? Yes, very, very good. That is a central sulcus. Awesome. So that is bifurcating the paracentral lobule, which we said is Brodmann's areas 1, 2, 3, and then 4. Right in the middle, we have the central sulcus, and we said that if we look at a mid-sagittal view of the brain, we're not going to see it because it does not descend into the midline. All right? We found accusations. Good, good, good. That would be central sulcus. So what is this? And this is a little bit more metaphorical language. When I'm asking you, there's a fissure, which is a seat to the frontal cortex, so it's the bottom of the frontal cortex, and it is a hat, so it's on top of the temporal cortex. What is the name of that fissure? You can give me the fissure name, or you can give me the other terminology if you like. Let's see. And you see I'm totally violating the dead air principle, because as many things as I can do at the same time, I will do that. Stream delay. Very good. Yep, that is a Sylvian fissure. And then, of course, if you're going into neuroscience, neurology, neurosurgery, you call it the Sylvian fissure. And if you are not, you call it the lateral sulcus, which is a less interesting name. All right. Do we have another one on this slide? We don't. Good. So now we have this question here, is what is this thing? What is this structure that I have pointed at? And this is directly from the slides. Hopefully it's not too difficult, so go ahead and have a go at identifying that structure. See? Yep. That would be primary auditory cortex. That is correct. And we'll go over the Brodmann areas for that here in a little bit, but very good job identifying that. Awesome job. All right. Now we have two questions, which are both up here and very poorly delineated. I apologize for that. The first question, as you can see, is what is this? What is this structure? Very good job so far. Very good. So this is the longitudinal fissure, great longitudinal fissure if you want to be really impressive, and the name that I would know is the interhemispheric fissure, because that is what is referred to in a lot of medical literature that has to do with holoprosencephaly, wherein this splitting of the brain is defective to various degrees. And then, of course, our question there in French, what is in that space? What is within the great longitudinal fissure? It's not just air as it's depicted here. There is something in there, and I'd like to know what that is. Very good. Nishi, right on the ball there. Sheena, good, 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 good. Awesome. So the falx cerebri would come down right into this space, as we mentioned in class. Awesome. You guys are killing it tonight. We're blazing through. So I have a clicker question. We saw this in class already, so I'm going to show it to you again, for those of you who didn't get it or didn't take note of it. So we have this area in yellow, and I'd like you to identify what type of frontal gyrus it is. Do you have an answer?
It's been too long since I studied brain anatomy.
So the answer choice is we have temporal or parietal. Is either of those? Not really, because in the front.
I'd say superior frontal gyrus.
I would also say superior frontal gyrus, right? And I'm sure they all picked superior frontal gyrus. Yep, they're on top of it. Too easy. Too easy question. And the brain just sort of teleports around. All right. And now we have this thing. What is it in yellow? Very good. This is a gyrus rectus. And of course, rectus means straight. So you see the thing at the bottom of the brain. It's not really sulcated. It's not really bent, or there's nothing going on with it at all. It's just straight. So that's a gyrus rectus. Very good. That's deep. Too easy. More questions. And again, we have no answer choices to these. So with the primary somatosensory cortex, we know that that is just behind the central sulcus. And the question we want to answer is, what are the Brodmann areas for that? And I gave you the plural, so you know it's more than one. And Nishi already answered the question. 3, 1, and 2. Awesome. So we're moving right along. Moving right along. Which are primary motor? So again, we're still in that paramedian lobule, that paracentral lobule. So we've identified 3, 1, and 2 as primary somatosensory, which is motor. That is 4. Very good. So we're supposed to know 3 and 1 and 2 and 4, and there are 3 other areas that we're supposed to know, and we'll cover those. So which one is primary visual now? You guys are killing it so far in these Brodmann areas. So which area is primary visual? Very good. That would be 17. Okay? So 17 is the back, that's vision. You don't think about it as, you want to have 20/20 vision, and 17 is the closest we have to 20, so 17 does vision, if you want to remember it that way. Or you can just memorize. Very good. Now, which areas are primary audition? Now, I said in class I was reviewing the left half of the room, and I told you guys one of the 2 areas involved. Actually, it is both of them, and you should know both of them. But they're easy to remember. If you remember one, you'll get the other. Good. Very good. So yeah, you guys picked up on 41, but yes, Vlada has it on the ball there. It is 41 and 42, not just 41. Very, very good job. And you might be asked about either one of those on the exam. They're sort of lumped together. So just know 41 and 42. Awesome job on that one. So we have this question with answer choices. 44 and 45 are what? Which of the following applies to Brodmann areas 44 and 45? These 2 are, yeah, they're a bit less important to remember by number, but that would be Broca's area. And it is A. Good job. Awesome job. This is wonderful. So much joy. And here is a slide that I stole all of this information from. So primary somatosensory is 3, 1, and 2. Premotor, that's 4. Here's the central sulcus. So this is 3, 4, 3, 2, and 1 are the paramedian area, the paramedian lobule, the paracentral lobule. 41 and 42, primary audition. Primary visual is 17, and 45 and 44 there are Broca's area. So good job. And if you know those, if you can answer every question on that slide, you are more than good on Broca, on the Brodmann areas. So you probably don't need to spend much more time with them on the for your exam prep. Just make sure you can identify them on the practicum, which you might be asked to do. So awesome, very good job. So we have another set of questions. We're really just blazing through this review here. Awesome job. So we have one layer of the brain which is full of axons and dendrites, more so than the others are. And remember we spoke about 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Which one of those layers is full of axons and dendrites predominantly? Nishi is correct. Very, very good. So that would be cortical layer 1. Alright? Very good. And as a matter of fact, in development, cortical layer 1 is made up of these Cajal-Rexia cells, which are involved in organizing the nervous system, promoting migration and all that, but eventually they sort of become this layer via a system of processes that are not actual cells that intend to be there for the long haul. It's mainly axons and dendrites. So, which layer is principally involved in cortico-cortical transmission? 1 layer, 2 layers, 5 layers. Which layer am I talking about here? Yep, very good. Nishi is on top of everything today. Really, really killer job, killer job. So it is area 2 and 3. So layer 2 and 3 are going to be mainly cortico-cortical transmission. All right. So let's go ahead and look at question 3 there. Which layer is mostly thalamic? So we're looking for the most thalamic afferents. Where is that going to be? Okay, it's not 2. Yep, that would be 4. Okay, so I'm glad we went over that. Yes, Nishi, right, that is exactly the delineation that you're supposed to make. Is that the afferents are in 4 and the efferents are in 6. So you think about it, you have to come somewhere before you can leave that place, right? So 4 comes before 6, 4 is afferent coming in, and 6 is efferent going away. Awesome job. And I think I ruined one of my next questions, but not this one. So 4, which layer is principally involved in transmission to subcortical targets? Don't worry about it. I'm glad that your level of understanding is, just like that. That's awesome for the exam. So we went over 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. So this is 5. Awesome. Awesome job. So if we're shooting information down below the cortex to the spine and to the liver and to whatever else we're sending it to, this is mainly going to be coming out of layer 5. Awesome job on this set. And we already did question 5. So here is a question which everyone seemed to mess up tremendously in lecture. So I thought we'd go over it again. So primary motor cortex, is it paleo, archicortex, or neocortex? And remember, I put a little memorization device into the GroupMe during class, and you can apply that here. C. C is correct. Yeah. And it's funny how difficult of a time we had with that during lecture. So if you'll remember from the slide set, did I put it in here? No. You'll remember that paleo has 3 layers, archicortex has 4 layers, and it's a specific structure, you should know that. The neocortex has 6. We know that primary motor cortex, we're talking about this outer brain part, sort of the main area of brain, which we know has 6 layers, so it must be neo. And if you look at the slides, it makes it fairly easy. I'm pulling it up so that I don't misspeak here. We missed it enough. So neocortex, the archicortex is hippocampus, only hippocampus. Paleocortex is essentially cingulate and the parahippocampal gyrus, which is involved in cingulate outgoing signals. So if it's not cingulate and it's not archicortex, it's neocortex. And the mnemonic I gave you for memorizing that is that PAN 346. So P has 3, A has 4, N has 6. Neocortex is 6, and you remember it in that order, increasing order. If that works for you, great. But it looks like you guys are all on top of it, on top of this anyway. Here's a hard one, because you don't know this yet. Here's a brain scan. And this can be any number of things. I'm not asking you for the disease process. I don't care what happened to the patient, because I have no empathy. But what I want to know is, what is the likely symptom? And so the first thing you're going to need to do is identify what the problem is. So I'll go ahead and help you out, and I'll tell you that the problem is here. Okay? You don't even know what it is, but the problem is here. So if I tell you the problem is there, I want you to think about what region of brain is damaged, and tell me what symptom is likely to result from this. Perhaps we have no idea. So if we can describe the brain regions involved in this, and this would be a pretty good practical question. We see it stretching from sort of, well, number one, it's on the right side, and it's stretching from sort of frontal-ish, well back into parietal. We can definitely say it's parietal. It's on the right side. Now we're going to go over this on Tuesday, but perhaps you know enough about the anatomy and the functional anatomy to predict what this patient might present with. Do you know? Okay. We have no idea. Okay, that's fair. So this patient is probably going to have a pretty weird haircut. They're probably going to have completely neglected one side of their body. If you ask them to draw a clock, it's going to be a pathetic clock. And this is why. So remember, we damaged cingulate gyrus and parahippocampal gyrus nishi. So what we're seeing here is that the right side was damaged, and if you look at the innervation normally, the right side of the brain here is responsible for attending to all of the left visual field and a pretty darn good bit of the right visual field as well. So if we damage this right side of the brain, then you end up with left neglect, because all of the attention that was directed to the left side has been cut out. Why isn't it bilateral? Well, the left side, which remember, it has Broca's area, it has Wernicke's area, it's really involved in language, it doesn't have time for all this stuff. It gives some attention to the right side, so it helps cover the right side, but it does nothing for the left side. So if we lose a right cortex involved in paying attention to the left side, it's gone. And that's what it shows you here in C, is if we damage the left side, we don't get problems, or as many problems. And of course, we're going to cover this on Tuesday, so Dr. Miller is probably going to ask you a question, what might happen, and you guys are to raise your hands and pretend to be really on top of the ball and show off a little bit. So that's my Easter gift to you guys. And that is the end of the slide set. So that was really a lot of the stuff I wanted to review. We went really slowly when we talked about cortex, because there are a lot of interesting things to talk about. But really, that's the TLDR version of it. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to pause. If you guys have anything you'd like me to go over, I can pull up the lecture slide set. If you have questions about anything we've gone over so far, go ahead and put it in the chat, and we will pause. We'll go over it right now. All right, so I'm going to give it a few minutes to see if any questions trickle in. If you don't have any questions or you don't care to hear any questions answered, then have a great night, a great holiday. Nothing so far. Okay, so if you got all of this stuff, definitely next time you go through this particular material, just be looking at the practical elements, being able to identify these things, being able to answer practicum questions. This is really written exam style. So yes, this is what you would call hemispatial neglect, Nishi. That's correct. Did the person suffer a stroke? Very likely. So we can't. It could be something ruptured. It could have been blunt trauma. It doesn't look like it because the skull is pretty much perfect. It could be bleeding due to whatever, because it's just a CT. We wouldn't detect a lot of structural stuff, well, depending on what's going on. What we can say for sure is that there's bleeding. There's a lot of bleeding. And I would go so far as to say it is subdural bleeding, because we don't see the sort of the lenticular shape that's associated with epidural bleeding. So this is probably some kind of stroke. Yeah. Does it usually occur on one side? Yeah, and not only just one side. It's not just going to be one side. It's going to be the left side pretty much every time. Because you can see the right side of the cortex, for whatever reason, is evolved to attend to both sides, and it provides like the majority of attention we have for the left side. If we cut that out, then we're going to have severe left hemispatial neglect. And we can get it on the right too, but kind of not as bad. So if we cut this out, we lose some innervation to the right, but we still have a good bit. The stroke can happen on either side. You can have strokes on either side of the brain. Any of the blood supply, remember in the blood supply lecture, we have all these arteries and we can destroy any of them. Whereas the hemispheric, if we get hemispheric neglect, then yes, it is very likely to be right parietal lobe damage rather than anything else. And that is because of this pattern of innervation that we're seeing right here. It's a good question. Does that answer it? Awesome. Awesome. Good, good, good. All right. So what questions are we left with then? Let's give it another minute or two since we moved so quickly. No problem. All right. Awesome. No, thank you for coming. The pleasure is all mine. It was a joy, and I hope to see you all next week as we're approaching the end of the semester here. So, yeah, you've been great. And if you have any questions, drop them in the chat. I'm always happy to answer them. Awesome. Okay, I'll go ahead and end the stream here. Very good job. See you all in class on Tuesday, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your night.